Okay, very good morning, everyone. I think we're going to get started. So, thank you for spending your Saturday with us for this talk on the mental load, mental fatigue, and why sometimes we feel so stressed and maybe burdened by not able to free our minds to be present with someone around us, right? So, before I begin, right, my name is Waifu, so I'm the co-founder of Blended Concept. So, maybe just introduce a little bit about what we are trying to do here, so that you guys can also follow us, and there will be more of this series coming up. So we are social enterprise registered race. We focus a lot on learning and development for the social service sector. So a part of our work, we train volunteers in the helping skill set to support beneficiaries. And this particular talk that we are doing today is one of those series that we are trying to bring in the knowledge of human behavior and communication science from the field of social work, psychology and counseling, and to make it practical and experiential to address real life issues that individuals may have. So that's really our motto. And then today's topic will be one of those topics that we are trying to help people understand why we sometimes get so bogged up in our mind. Yeah, so today I would like to, if you have not download the ebook, please do so. So there's an ebook QR code here, you can download it. And if you have not followed our social media for upcoming talks, you can do it here as well. So today I would like to invite Alastair, who is our speaker for today. He's our friend and also a long-time experienced veteran in both presentation, counseling, and also in the private sector. So I still have more than, I think, 15, 20 years of experience in the counseling sector, working with a diverse pool of clients or beneficiaries. This includes correctional population all the way to private practice, where he also supports individual mental health and also family-related issues. Okay? So without further ado, let me pass it to him so he can get started.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, good morning. Quick check. How many of you are feeling okay? How many of you are feeling good? How many of you are even aware that you may not necessarily be in a bad place, a good place, but you are not quite your normal self, okay? And you may have been going on through days and you may not have noticed, and this is the new normal, and you think that this is normal. And you may be thinking that maybe the next time I take a break, I go for a holiday, then things will get better, okay? I'm here to tell you that it's not true. Wherever we go, whether we're on holiday or not, our self follows us. And you can be on holiday and you can still be not at peace. You can be on holiday and the people around you can feel the strain of your absence. Physically present, mentally absent. And why does that happen, right? So today we're going to try to understand this invisible nature of the mental load. We're going to also try to articulate some of the psychological and physiological downsides of it, if we don't want to let go of it, and how to balance this off. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to do a simple activity. Some of you here present, you have your worksheets, and some of you who haven't already downloaded the ebook, I hope you have, but if you haven't downloaded the ebook, maybe just get a piece of paper, pen, or your mobile phone, and I want you to write down a list of things that was on your mind this week, if you can recall. Okay, a list of things that you were bothered with, a list of things that you had to do, right, one after another, right? So just write down the list of things that you were aware of, the list of things that you were busy with, right? So that's the first part of it. So I'm going to give you a minute or so just to identify some of the things that was going through your mind, some of the things that you had to prepare for, that you were very busy with, right? And let's do the second part of this exercise. Pick one, right, and then key in that one of these mental loads you had to carry for yourself, right? Maybe it was caring for a loved one, maybe it was a financial issue you're worried with, maybe it was a job search, right? So scan the Slido, right? On for some of you, you already have that on your ebook, and some of you may have it on your actual physical copy. But if you're not, then scan and just key in. What was most of the salient mental loads that you experienced this week? Managing boundaries and expectations, okay? What else? What was the mental load that you struggled with? All right, workplace, covering colleagues on urgent leave. That means not only did you have to make sure your tasks were done, but the tasks other people had was also, had to be completed. Work projects, okay? So you see that there is no one thing that we are usually engaged with. We are engaged with multiple things happening, right? And it's not necessarily, it's just a way of life. We have many things on our plate. You may be at work, thinking about home. You may be at home, thinking about work. This is a weekend. Some people are thinking about work that has to be completed, work that has to be done. We go on holiday, our mind flickers to and fro between work and our own obligations. And sometimes we just ask ourselves, when will all this end? If only I could just get rid of all this. If only I just could switch my mind off. Okay? And to be able to get all these things out of my mind. But again, why are we carrying this load? We need to first understand why. And then we will learn how to do it, right? So to be available, right, to family members, staying energetic, okay? And when you know already it's you're really tired. Work, bosses, well, drinking beer and singing songs. I'm not sure whether that's a mental load or a good thing, or maybe it's a distraction. Mental health, slipping into depression, crown. Why? Okay, managing time that you have to spend, caregiving, workload, searching for work. Family illness, expectations, right? Managing cash flows, managing different type of personality. So you see, there is such a wide range. And if I kept this open for a few more minutes, it could be so overwhelming that simply reading these things on the list here could even cause you to start wondering, right? And recalling some of the things that you are carrying. So one of the things that we need to understand, that the mental load that we are referring to in this case comes from two different sources. Right? And we will deal with these two most common ones for today's workshop. The first one is this thing called multitasking. I come from a generation where multitasking was the buzzword. Management consultant Peter Drucker and all of them kept talking about this thing called multitasking and how multitasking was such an important part. And if you could multitask, you would be more efficient. I'm here to tell you that is not true. People who multitask, I have found, are ones who are at most risk of not being able to put their minds at rest. They are the ones who have high stress levels. Multitasking is not a good thing, and I'll explain why. The second one is rumination, right? Repetitive thoughts, repetitive thinking about things beyond your control. This rumination could be things about the past, could be things in the future. Your mind is just constantly being engaged. Now, this is a fact that we cannot deny. Our mind never stays still. Even when you're sleeping, it's busy processing whatever you went through the day, deleting, storing, and refreshing. But the thing about our mind is that if we learn how to control, it can be a friend to help. But if we don't, then it can be this friend who is trying to help, but helping in very unhelpful ways. So for example, if I'm someone who thinks, and as I think, I feel, and as I feel, I must express. And if I express in a way that's unhelpful, the people around me will be impacted negatively. I may be engaged in a conversation with someone and suddenly something pops into my mind and I pick up my phone, I do something. Or something pops into my mind and I bring something up totally unrelated to whatever you're talking about. Right? So this whole idea of our mind shuttling to and fro, thousands of thoughts going through it, thousands of things going through our mind, it's normal. We don't realize it, but when we engage with every thought that comes through, and that's where it gets a bit worrisome. Multitasking is about trying to do many things while you're doing one thing, thinking about many things while you're doing one thing. So this thing about multitasking, if you don't realize it, multitasking puts your mind in the constant state of anxiety. You're doing this, but your mind is thinking of that. At workplace, you're doing project A, your mind is thinking of project B, thinking of project C, and then when you finish project A, you don't give yourself the time to pat yourself on the shoulder and say, well done, good job, it's take a break. But you're already thinking about the next piece of work. And then while you're working on project B, you're thinking of home. So imagine the strain your mind is on constantly. Right? You carry it in your head so others don't have to. So this is a quote that kind of resonates because I realize to some extent, many of us are carrying things based on the fact that we are responsible adults. Okay? And as responsible adults, we sometimes take ownership, and sometimes we want to be accountable, we want to be helpful, but ownership sometimes can be excessive. If you want to take ownership and you want to be helpful, to what extent? Where are your boundaries? This whole idea of multitasking, let's talk a little bit about the illusion of efficiency. Many people think that because they can multitask, they are very efficient. But I'm here to put it to you. Imagine you have a switch, right, in your mind. This switch helps you to focus on a task. And you are using this switch to turn on and off while you're focusing on many, many different tasks. Can you imagine the toll it will take switching from one task to another? We think that it is parallel processing, but it's not. Our mind can only focus on one thing at a time, and that's a given fact. So if right now I'm talking and you're focused on me 100%, that's it. Your mind is focused on me. The words I use, the imagery I project, I speak, and whatever comes to your mind. But if you are not focused on me, and that means you're just listening, but your mind is drifting, then it's a different ballgame altogether. So this parallel processing thing, it's an illusion to think that we are thinking of multiple things. We are not. We are switching from one thing to another. It's called rapid task switching. And rapid task switching is a term that I think many people may find new, but I have found it to be quite enlightening because it helps me to understand and makes me feel less guilty if I don't multitask well. Okay? My younger days, I used to multitask all the time. So I'm in a constant state. From the minute my eyes open and my mind is focused, I'm already thinking about the whole entire day. I'm thinking about tomorrow. I'm thinking about presentation. I'm thinking about family needs and everything. And it goes on all the way till I sleep. And sometimes I even dream about the work. Right? It shows me that my mind is still engaged. I used to be a writer, so we used to have to come up with concepts for campaigns. So we're constantly thinking, right, what to do, and storylines appear, disappear, until everything gets so blurred, you forget which idea is going to which campaign, and everything's all over the place. Okay? So this is the thing about multitasking. The result, cognitive fatigue. Your mind gets so exhausted. Imagine you're in the gym and you're just carrying weights non-stop. How long can you last? Okay? Or you're running and there's no end in sight. How long can you last? At some point in time, you're going to have to stop. At some point in time, you're going to have to tell yourself, this is enough. And what do? We don't do that. So we do things to distract us from whatever is giving us that fatigue. Lowered working memory. I think that's where it's happening, right? I've reached the stage of my life where I also realize I forget things a lot. So multitasking is now completely not in my vocabulary at all. What's important to me is I have a list I create, and if things come to my mind, I put it into my calendar. I set a time for it. I set a day for it, or it's in my to-do list because it's not urgent and I don't have to schedule anything. So I try very much to compartmentalize and then come back and focus on whatever. I trust that my mind is helping me, okay? But I don't let it run and take control, because then again, it will be multitasking in a different form. Miss details, right? So you begin to realize some things that are important, you remember. Some things that are not important, yeah, maybe. Okay? So ask yourself, doing it all, carrying on, do you fit any one of these points? Are you the one in your family who keeps track? Are you the one in the office who's trying to make sure everything functions? You're thinking that you are responsible for all the little details. Are you the one that notices when things run out? Are you the one that makes yourself do certain things? Yes, I'm the toilet paper man. Okay? I'm the one that notices tissue paper running low, toilet paper running low, this running out. So the time will come when you do these things and somehow irritation may set in. Why others aren't doing this? So you will have these kind of passing thoughts. These are signs that, again, things may not be going well in terms of your mental load. Who reminds others of deadlines, birthdays, appointments? This morning I just texted the family to remind them of a birthday of one of our nieces. Okay? There you go. Right? If you took a break, would things still get done? Or would they fall apart? Right? Are you of the belief, the mindset that you must carry and do these things? Because if you don't, then the whole household will fall apart, the whole office will collapse. How often do you feel like the default manager? Not just of your life, but for everyone else's life. Okay? So if you answer yes to any of these, maybe it's time for you to take a step back and ask yourself, why, or rather who, put this burden on your shoulders? And why did you decide to take up this for yourself? Because if you don't put a stop to it, or at least think about it, here are some of the cognitive unintended side effects, right? Constantly remembering, constantly planning. So we'll start with the first one, your mental and emotional consequences. Decision fatigue. At some point in time, you will hear yourself say something like, why am I always the one that has to make the decision? Why can't you make the decision? Right? Perhaps someone around you has tried, but you have not allowed them because you may call yourself a control person, but maybe it's your fear taking over. Maybe you're the one that is now a chronic overthinker. Right? You not just remember stuff, you continue to think about stuff, even when it's to do something to do in a month's time, you're still thinking about it. Mental fragmentation, your mind is all over the place, and then there's anxiety and self-doubt. Did I miss anything out? Could I have done things better? Why did this thing turn out this way? All the rumination side effects come in. Mental, emotional will always result in behavioral and physical consequences. Okay, what your mind thinks, what your mind believes, your emotions will feel, and your body will react to it. So burnout. One of the unintended side effects of multitasking in the long term is the stress overload that will lead to what we call burnout. So you hear people saying things like, I'm so tired, I need a break. Right? And it's not physical tiredness, it's mental overload, irritability, sleep disruption, neglect of self. Sleep disruption comes because your mind cannot stop. Your mind cannot stop, and especially in moments that are quiet, you're not engaged in any other activity, your mind goes into severe overload. And what happens? There will always be social repercussions, relational consequences. You will feel resentful. Right? Maybe everyone else is smiling, happily going about their lives at home, and you feel resentful that you are carrying the load. You feel resentful that you're the one that has to go to bear the cross of, excuse me, to bear the burden of trying to make sure everything functions well. Conflict, right? Maybe you don't realize it, but you're beginning to make remarks that people will take offense to. Some people think this house functions by automatic. Toilet paper appears automatic. And all the things in the fridge appear automatic. Okay? And you become very resentful, and you become upset, and people look at you and laugh, thinking that you're cracking a joke, but you take it, you're really being serious, right? And unequal partnerships. You begin to feel, if you are a partner in a family, that you are carrying most of the burden on your own. Okay? So all these things affects, right? And in the long term, without realizing it, you may have certain things building up, and the straw that breaks the camel back could be something totally unrelated. Right? You are ruminating, you're thinking about this, and then suddenly, months later, years later, you quarrel about something really trivial, and you center your whole trying to understand why we quarrel, why we fought over the little thing that seems trivial at that time, but it's not. It's not that thing. It's a whole bunch of stuff that you were not able to address on your own. It's an accumulation, clogged up. Your pipes are all clogged up, and then right now something needs to be done. You need to find a way to sit down and ask yourself what needs to be done, so that I can begin this whole process of taking out what's helpful, what's not helpful, and unclogging it. Rumination. Your brain never stops. Okay, the brain that never clocks out. Repetitive, often unproductive thought loops. Now, rumination is something that has got to do with our own set of negative automatic thoughts. Sometimes we think, and because we have certain negative automatic thoughts, we take action, remedial action. That's not a bad thing. Okay? For example, you had a presentation you did, and you thought it didn't go very well, and your negative automatic thoughts is, why did I do it like that? And then your natural reaction is, how can I do better? Now that's fine, because you're now constructively thinking about something. Rumination looks like, the talk went terribly. The presentation was so bad. I could see that people were all not really buying into my idea. I'm such a failure. Okay? And nothing I do works my way. Why everything I do, then you go into a very negative spiral. Right? So it's destructive thinking. Rumination on past, future. So the whole idea is that when we look at the past, and you ask yourself or you say things like, I should have, why didn't I? That's negative rumination. Okay? So what you want to do a little bit more constructive is, instead of why didn't I should have, ask yourself, what have I learned from that? What will I do differently next time? How can I do these things differently so that the outcome eventually will be different? Because if we ruminate and we ask ourselves, why didn't I, I should have this, I should have that, our emotions get untangled with our negative thoughts. And when your emotions get entangled with your negative thoughts, chances are you may not be in a good place to do anything constructive. You feel bad about it. And when you feel bad about it, our natural instinct is to find something to distract ourselves from it. So how do you sit down with your thoughts and learn from something when you're constantly finding ways to distract yourself from the negative thoughts? Okay? These thoughts and future, what if I need to pray in case? So I take these kind of thoughts like the warning signals in my car. If I have a car and the warning signals come on, and suddenly I have this flicker, hey, there's a workshop next week, or there's a event that we need to prepare for next week. So the first thing I need to do is sit down and ask myself, okay, what is my brain trying to help me prepare for? Okay, what is it trying to tell me? Did we leave something out? We didn't leave it out? Make a checklist, okay, and then put aside the time to go through it in the future. But if I am here and now, I'm talking to my family, we're having dinner together, and my mind suddenly starts thinking about work. Can I be fully present? And I think about work, and I realize there are things that are left undone, and now I'm beginning to get worried. Now, my family may be able to read me well, and they look at the cloud that suddenly comes over the face, the change in my facial expression, and everyone will feel very nervous. And then you begin to realize that the smiling, the laughing, joking is suddenly slowly fading off. And now you become the center of everyone's universe. Okay? So these are little things that we want to be able to be mindful of and ask ourselves, is this really helpful? If it's not helpful, what can we do to change it? Rather than just continue to live with it until you reach a stage where everyone walks on thin ice around you, walks on eggshells around you. And silence, downtime, these are the times where we are most vulnerable. Okay? So if you ask yourself, through the course of each day, when do you find yourself reaching out for your handphone the most frequently? When do you find yourself reaching out to be distracted? Okay, going to Shopee, going to Carousel, going to social media, doing things that just, I don't know, takes you away from wherever you are. So it could be on a bus ride, it could be on a train ride, it could be during mealtime, it could be just quiet moments when you are before bedtime. And ask yourself, the next time you're tempted to reach out, pause, check in with yourself, what's going through my mind? Okay? What am I actually feeling? Boredom is a word that we generally use to describe. But if you look at the definition of boredom, boredom means I wish I was somewhere else doing something else rather than whatever it is I'm doing. Okay? So what is happening? What do you wish you were doing? Maybe you wish you were with someone else. What do you wish to be doing apart from wherever you are? So this inner monologue, right, I mentioned passingly earlier, this negative or automatic thoughts. It's a monologue that we have in our mind. Right? The quotation, I find that describes it very well. I'm lying in bed but running marathons in my head. Okay, I may be lying in bed but my brain is on overdrive. Now I have issues with that as well, right? Because I am by nature someone who is thinking all the time. And I think this 30 years in the workplace has not changed me at all. But I have managed to manage it a lot better, right? So when I begin this marathon, the first thing I ask myself is, what's happening? Is there something going on in my life that I'm struggling with, right? So if there isn't, and I rule out any possibility that I'm in a bad place, then I'm going to ask myself next, what is it that, what is the theme that constantly pops up in my mind? Is it about finances? Is it about work? Is it about relationship? Is it about family? Is it about kids? What are some themes that constantly reoccur? Okay? I want to let my inner self connect with my outer self so that I know that I don't just ignore it. Because the more you ignore it, the more it will come back and talk to you. It's trying to tell you something. So the question is, can we harness and sit down with it, be still with it, so that we can actually listen to it and then do something about it, rather than let it get out of hand. Right? So some of the things that very common rumination triggers, right? If you look at it, it's fear of failure. Many of us fear failure because of what it implies. But if you ever try to sit down and ask yourself, who defines failure? And what does failure actually mean? To run a successful business, you ask any successful businessman, they'll tell you they would have had failures. Learning from failures is one way of moving forward. If you had someone who's never had failure in their life, I feel worried for them. Because the next setback they feel, they may not be able to handle it because they have not grown accustomed to dealing with setbacks. So if you look at failure and ask yourself, this is not failure, this is feedback. The feedback is telling me that something needs to be done differently. Then it's a more constructive way of dealing with setbacks. Okay? Anticipating judgment. This whole idea of worrying about what people think, this whole idea of worrying about how people feel about you, this is an issue that's for a separate discussion altogether, but you need to understand what are some of the things you do constantly and why do you do it? Do you do it because it's the right thing to do, or you do it because you want to please others? Right? Say, for example, if you're in a workplace situation and there is a meeting and you realize things aren't exactly going according to plan, or you disagree with something, do you speak up? Or are you afraid to speak up? And if you are afraid to speak up, why? Are you worried about judgment? Are you worried that by speaking up, sharing your thoughts, people will think lesser of you? So this whole idea of worrying, anticipating judgment, does it come from our lack of assertiveness, lack of confidence? I don't know. There are many different factors. But if you are not doing what you think you should, and because it's worrying about what other people think of you and how other people may judge you, then there may be something there that for you to think about and to work on. Worrying about outcomes. So this thing about worrying about outcomes, can we predict outcomes? I think naturally we'll realize we cannot. What is in control is the process that will take us closer to our desired outcome. Any sportsman will tell you, they don't focus on the outcome. I can't just sit down there and dream of the outcome. I need to focus on the process, because when I think about the outcome, my body will tense up, I may freeze, I may get worried, and then everything that I've trained for, prepared for, will just fall into pieces, will fall apart. Okay? So worrying about outcomes, and I think there's a sub-theme to this thing about worrying about outcomes. We are pretty much a race of people who want to be in control. So it's just not about the outcomes, but about the control of the outcome. If you knew that the outcome, let's say for example, I go for a meal, I eat, I'll be full. Will you be fearful of the outcome? No, right? But if I brought you to a street side stall in the very dodgy place, and I say it's crawling there, and sooner or later they'll catch it and they'll fry it and we all eat it. Okay? Will you be worried about the outcome? Of course you would. But if I took this same ants and termites and all that and presented it in a nice restaurant and everything nice, gourmet, Michelin 3-star, you'll be sitting there, eating it out and say, well, I'm not worried about the outcome because hygiene is taken care of, etc., etc. Right? So I think this worrying about outcome could also do with our own fear of loss of control. Right? Many of us carry this excessive mental load because of the need to control. The need to make sure that each day goes according to plan, that tomorrow goes according to plan, that our life goes according to plan. I'm here to tell you, it doesn't happen this way. Life never goes according to plan. Life happens, full stop. And then you work around whatever happens, adapt to it, become more and more flexible, and then you begin to enjoy the process. Okay? I'm not saying that please go out, rush, and do the most unpredictable thing that you can think about. No, it's not about reckless living. But it's about our fear of losing control and our need for such control that may cause us to do a lot of all these things about worrying and even replaying mistakes. Okay, a constant theme I hear is when people replay, they ask themselves, right? They think about the mistakes over and over again, and they come up with phrases like, I'm such a failure, I'm hopeless, I can't do this. I see these things happening very frequently when I work with teenagers. So I ask myself, why? So the first occurrence could be when they get a test result, and they have this first phrase come to mind, I didn't do well, I'm so useless. Okay? And this plays out in their mind when they are in class. Then they go back home. What's the likelihood of it playing out again? High or low? High. They go home, somebody looks at the result and say, why did you do so badly? You're so useless. Imagine this theme repeats itself over and over again. One person after another person after. And then the teenager begins to define themselves as I'm not capable, I'm useless, I'm hopeless, I keep making mistakes, okay? I can't seem to even get it right. And by the time this person is 20, 30 in the workplace, you hear these things breaking out very frequently. Right? Whenever things go wrong, the first thing they do is blame. So they either find a way to blame themselves or they blame someone else. Right? So if you are someone who is, I would say, a little bit more aware of the inner thoughts that go through your mind, you could be someone who is more of a problem solver. You think about things that go wrong, and the first instinct you have is, how can we get this done right? What can I learn from it? And then you move on from there. Okay? If not, this morning I was just sitting down chatting with someone, and we were talking about certain profiles, certain people that we work with. So there are two groups of people. One who will come up to you and says, there's a problem, let's find a way to solve it. And then the second one will be, there's a problem, who caused it? Why did this happen? Okay? And the blaming never stopped. Right? So if this carries on, you'll realize it doesn't just impact you in a professional basis. You will carry that self home and it will affect you in a personal basis. Something goes wrong at home, someone's going to get blamed. So what are you trying to do? You're going to teach someone how to feel guilt all the time without them even being aware that you are placing that mental load on them. So this whole idea of mental load, we ask ourselves, sometimes we carry this on our own. And what we need to do is to find a way to just cut it. Right? All the past loads that we can carry, find a way to just cut it. And then make sure that you don't get this load loaded onto you by other people. Okay? People in your life that come in to guilt trip you, people come in your life to blame you for stuff. These are all the mental loads, negative mental loads that they put. So for every person that comes in and says something negative about you, and you feel that load, I would encourage you to go find someone who will say something positive about you. Because whenever someone says positive about you, affirms you, a little bit of that load gets taken off. Okay? So between the two, ask yourself, in your life, do you have more negative people in your life or more positive people in your life? Of the two, what do you hear more often? People telling you what a good job you've done and how much they appreciate your effort, or people who constantly ask you why you do this like that, why can't you be better, why, and then you begin to feel negative more often about yourself. Okay? So what happens to the cause of mental rumination? Emotional elements, anxiety, guilt, like I talked about, resentment. Some of us have a voice so we can speak up. You can say things like, I'm not happy with the way, I'm not comfortable with the way some of the words you use, I'm not happy with the way you're treating me. But some of us don't have that voice. And chances are, if you're someone who ruminates a lot, you may not have that voice to speak up, but you have that dialogue that runs perpetually like a negative loop in your mind. Okay? And as a result, there will be a lot of resentment. Resentment can fester, right? Resentment, if left undressed, can fester. It's like a cancer. It grows in you until every other aspect of your life is going to be consumed by it. So what happens physically? There's going to be tension, fatigue, sleep issues. Right? Some of the themes that people have in sleep is themes of the past. Right? All the negative themes of the past, anger, resentment. I was talking to someone yesterday, and I asked this person, he had a very bad relationship with, after 10 over years, and this relationship didn't go very well. And are you looking to go into another relationship anywhere in the near future? I mean, it's been years, right, since you did the relationship. And this person said, no, I still haven't gotten over that failed relationship. How long more will you carry this load, and at what price? Okay? Cognitive, reduced focus, indecision making, mind blanking out. Okay? Paralysis, because you overanalyze stuff, because you are always, right? So in the past, we had this fight or flight mentality. Right now, there's a third one, fight, flight, or freeze. Okay? It's frozen. I cannot decide. I don't know what to do because I'm worried. If I do this, this will happen. If I do that, that will happen. So when they come for coaching, therapy, usually we ask them, what's the worst that can happen? All right? What's the worst that can happen? And what if it didn't happen? Would this be a wasted opportunity you gave up because you were worried that the worst could happen? What if this was an opportunity in the making? What if this was the pathway to success and you didn't take this path because you thought it looked unfamiliar? You took the other path that looked very familiar, and this is the same path you've been traveling your entire life that got you nowhere. Right? So thinking about this, all these mental costs, maybe my question to you is, the things that you do, the things that you worry about, is it time to let go? Right? Is it worth continuing to worry about? And when you are not aware, so these are what we call compensating behaviors, distraction, right? So ways for us to try to distract or compensate. So we try harder to control our environment because of the inner chaos. So when we have things happening inside here, instead of trying to settle the stuff inside here, we try to control what's outside here. And you realize that the more you try to control the environment, the people around you, trying to influence things around you, it doesn't always go your way. Right? So, for example, if I don't want to feel worried in the workplace, then I try to make sure I manage my staff. And I manage my staff by micromanaging them. I manage my staff by constantly checking in on them because I am worried about outcomes. Do you think that my worst feared outcome will be avoided, or it may actually come true? Right? If my worst feared outcome is that, okay, maybe we are going to be overloaded, the work is just overwhelming us, and we're not meeting our deadlines, and I micromanage my team members. I check in on them on a daily basis. One day I check in on one person 2-3 times, so how's everything going? And the person says, I had enough. I can't take the mental load from my boss anymore. And then they leave. And then my self-fulfilling prophecy will come true. The work really will not be completed because the people are not around to complete it. Right? So we think about this looping mechanism, right? So some compensating behavior could be over preparation. Now, I have nothing against preparation, but there'll come a point in time when you are already as prepared as you can be. Any other additional preparation is just your way of reminding yourself how fearful you are. And your mind may just find a way to help you by blanking out. Okay? Over-functioning in relationship. So over-functioning is overdoing, right? Sometimes we have people around us who tend to do too much, even when we don't want them to do certain things, they go out of their way to do it. I'm really grateful for such people, but that could be a compensating behavior on their part. Okay? Over-worrying about how people think about them, whether they're likable, etc., could lead to overcompensating behavior that includes people-pleasing, okay? Or hyper-productivity. You can be productive, but you can be hyper-productive to such an extent that your health and your mental well-being is affected. All right, so for example, I used to be hyper-productive. If you told me this project was due on Friday, I'll make sure I finish on Wednesday. I still remember when I went to do my studies, I was the one that I was the most irritating student. I'm the irritating student you have in class who submits the homework always in advance. The assignments always in advance. People will be asking for extension, and then the lecturer will say things like, why you want me to ask extension? You see, he's also working, but he submitted the work in advance, 3 days, 5 days. I'm the one that goes around stressing people out. Okay? Why? Because I'm hyper-productive. Right? But what they don't know is, in that productive, what is the price I pay? People sleep 8 hours, I sleep 3 hours. Why? Because I'm busy doing the work, making sure it's done on time. I set very tight deadlines for myself. So these tight deadlines I set, so if, like the military, they tell you, someone tells you, I need it by Monday. Then you go and tell the next person, I need it by Friday. Then the next person will go to, I need it by Wednesday. And then by the time it comes, the person last on the packing order only has 2 hours to do it. Okay? Whereas there's a week to prepare. So I'm that sort of guy who always trying to prepare in advance. Now it's helpful for me because I know how I work, but it will become very unhelpful when I lay down as an expectation on the people around me. When I say things like, why can't you prepare in advance? So the person will ask you, how far in advance? At least 2-3 days in advance. Then the person says, I got other work to do. No, it's about your time management. You don't plan your time well. Then the person, there's only 24 hours a day. And I say, yeah, but you don't need all of it to sleep, right? So then can you see the whole conversation becomes very unproductive, right? So when our brain is stuck on overthinking, over-managing, we try to do more to feel less overwhelmed. Okay? So our to-do list grows, post-it pads all over our laptop, working table, until your post-it pads, inside got post-it pads on your post-it pads, and everything is a post-it pad, colored everywhere, until you ask, I went to your table and asked you, so which one is important? They are all important. Then which one will you do first? Whatever catches my eye. How do you know that's important? Because it's a post-it pad is on my table, that means it must be important. Okay? And I come up to you and say, didn't I see this post-it pad on your, this same post-it pad a month ago? I say, then I begin to realize the only reason why you take out the post-it pad is when the glue gives up and the post-it pad drop off. Otherwise, the post-it pad will be there. 6 months later, it will still be there. Right? So it tells me your fearful mindset has taken control of your life. You are not doing things because it's urgent or it's required. You're doing things because you think you have to. And you're perpetually worried. One of the practice, right, whenever you find yourself spiraling all over the place, one very useful practice is learning how to ground yourself. Right? Grounding yourself when your mind is racing all over the place is not to empty your mind. Now, please do not ever be mistaken or the mistaken belief that mindfulness is about emptying your mind. Your mind cannot be emptied unless, of course, you naturally have an empty mind. Right? Then that's good for you. The world around you, people will find you very I'm not sure whether people enjoy being around you, but certainly they won't be stressed by you. Okay? Grounding is not emptying your mind. It is about noticing that it's run away from you and gently bring it back. Okay? Someone gave me this analogy once. Mindfulness is like going to the gym. Okay? I go to the gym, I carry weights. The repetition of carrying weights builds muscles for me. Mindfulness is noticing when my mind drifts and bringing it back. The repetition helps me to regain control of my thinking. Okay? Because I cannot control what goes through my mind. And this is something I've learned. Because we are bombarded by advertising messages, we are bombarded by interactions with people and how people's words can create imagery in our mind. So constantly we have things going through our mind. But mindfulness teaches us, if I am here having a conversation with you, and I notice that while I'm having this conversation with you, my mind is drifting off. I wonder what's for lunch. I wonder whether, hey, my package, I hope that, okay, I'm gone already. Let's come back. Okay, let's come back and focus on the person I'm talking to in front of me. Okay, so that's mindfulness. So one of the things that we want to do is to teach you one simple mindfulness technique. This was originally called the 4-7-8 technique, but we shortened it to 4-5-6. And in one moment, in a very short while, you realize why. Okay, it's a breathing technique. So mindfulness basically tells us wherever we go, our breath follows us. So one of the easiest things for us to do when we notice our mind drifting off is to give it something to focus on so that it can come back to the present. Right? So that's a very simple premise. Mindfulness practice is not about meditating and then seeing goblins in your head or trying to figure out this Saturday's 4D number. No, it's not about elevating. No, it's not. There's nothing spiritual about it. It's just helping you regain control of your thoughts. Okay, noticing your mind has flown away. I mean, not regaining control of your mind. So if your mind is drifting, gently bring it back to the present by focusing on your breathing. Right? And you realize that there's a very interesting phenomenon taking place, that our mind can only focus on one thing at a time. That's why multitasking is never helpful. You're switching focus, and it becomes very unfocused after a while. Okay? So let's do a very simple breathing exercise. Right? So I'm going to give you a count, and I want you to follow my count. Okay? So 4, 5, 6. All right? So you're going to breathe in, right? And you count 4 as you slowly inhale through your nose, hold for 5 seconds, and you will exhale completely out from your mouth 6 seconds. All right, so let's start. Okay, so at my count, when I say go, you just say gently inhale, count with the 4 count. I will indicate. Ready? Let's go. Breathe in, hold it, and breathe out. And then one more time, breathe in. Hold it. And gently breathe out. Okay? If you do this on a regular basis, right? I mean, in the course of your journey to work, in the office, sitting down, lunch break, you will realize that your ability to ground yourself, regain control of your emotional and thinking state, slowly gets better. Okay? If you do this before a presentation, you do this before a meeting, you do this before a very important call you have to take. I used to do this exercise before I met my clients, clinical practice, or during breaks when we have training sessions, right? Once you are able to do this 4, 5, 6 without feeling lighthearted, or you're holding your breath and you're going to gasp for air like a fish out of water, then you slowly move to this thing called 4, 7, 8. Oh, sorry, we didn't have the 4. It's supposed to be 4, 7, 8. Right? So that means you breathe in for 4, hold your breath for 7 counts. Alright, so the last time we all tried that, because we are all cardio, not so fit. You hold our breath for 7 counts, some of us nearly pass out. Okay, and then breathe out for 8 counts. By the time you reach the 5th count, the 3 count, you do no more air to breathe out. Right? Your lung coming out through your nose. Right? So 4, 5, 6, eventually you get more familiar, it shifts to 4, 7, 8. Okay, so when you were doing the breathing exercise earlier, did you notice anything that shifted internally? Okay, you may have had this very brief moment where all you focused on was your breathing. So I would encourage you, the next time your mind begins to drift, or the next time you begin to feel signs of anxiety, okay, the storyline will appear. What if? Why things like that? Pause before it gets out of hand, come back, ground yourself, do your breathing exercises. Breathing exercise for a couple of seconds, right? Maybe 2, 3 counts. It will not take you more than a minute. Right? Your mind will thank you, and the rest of your inner state will thank you. Right? So, like I said earlier, we may not be able to remove all the loads, right? Life sometimes gives us things that we need to, because of as a husband, as a father, as a colleague, there are the responsibilities you have, but you can choose to learn how to deal with it. Right? Learning how to deal with it, you don't necessarily have to carry everything at the same time. Let me give you another analogy. If I brought you to the best buffet in the world, okay, and I told you you can eat anything you want, and you can stay here and eat as long as you want. And then you being the typical kiasu Singaporean, instead of finding a plate, you find a tray. Okay? You find a tray this big, and you load it up with everything, because you're so scared that you have a tray, a plate, and you come back, someone else will sapu all the mussel, all the Alaskan crab, so you have a tray this big. And you go to one corner and say, I'm going to eat. You can only eat one mouthful at a time. No matter how big a tray you load, you can only eat one mouthful at a time. And that's a reality. You try to stuff more than one mouthful at a time before you swallow, good luck to you. Okay? I'll see you in hospital. Right? So you can only eat one mouthful at a time. So think of life as this analogy. You may have many things to do, but focus on one thing at a time. Okay? Be intentional about how you have to do. Be present in how you want to engage. Now that you learn how to look at these kind of loads, identify who they are and what they are, and one is this multitasking load, one is this rumination load. What we're going to do is to take a short break, right? So it's just about 11 o'clock, just nice. We'll take a 5-minute break. Right? Some of you need to run to the toilet, get a bit of water. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back. So let's carry on. John Kabat-Zinn, someone who was made very popular by a lady called Oprah Winfrey. Okay, he is a mindfulness guru. He's written so many books about mindfulness. He came up with this phrase: "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf them," which is basically what mindfulness is all about. Okay, mindfulness is based on the premise you can't stop the waves of thoughts, you can't stop the waves of emotions, because the thoughts are driving those emotions. But as we begin to learn to surf these thoughts, the emotional intensity of such thoughts begins to lessen. The narrative we have in our mind begins to quieten down. We begin to notice a little bit more about what's going through our mind, so that we can pause to ask ourselves, how accurate are these thoughts? How useful are these thoughts? Can I find evidence on the contrary? You begin to realize that by simply acknowledging the thoughts and by asking them in a very non-judgmental, non-conflicting manner, what are you trying to tell me? What am I supposed to do with these thoughts? You begin to learn a little bit more about yourself, but more importantly, you begin to be able to realize some of these thoughts that were accurate at one point, helpful at one point, are no longer relevant to your life. And then that's a process where we begin to let go. Okay? So let's talk about how we're going to manage all these mental loads you carry. The first one is this multitasking load. So as straightforward as it seems, it may not be easy for some because it's a new way of doing it. So the whole idea is to change your thinking from trying to do more to doing more with intention. Okay? It's not about how much you can do. It's about doing intentionally each task so that you can do them well, giving them the best of your attention and your resources. It is about trying to make sure that while you're doing this intentionally, you know how to deal with the many different thoughts that come to your mind to bother you, to tell you that this is done, this and this. So one of the things I talked about for myself is this thing, time blocking. Right? Time blocking means you can choose a specific time of the day to sit down, or specific slots during the day to actually let your mind tell you what needs to be done, what it is that is reminding you. So I usually do this very early in the morning after my own intention setting. After I have my breakfast, then I'll sit down, I'll give myself 15 minutes. All right, what do we have planned and what's up? Then maybe the course of the half a day, I do the same, and then the end of the day, I do the same. All right, so what am I doing? I'm giving myself that space to think about all the things that need to be done rather than flick on and off and on and off. So it comes back to the second thing, task batching, time blocking, You begin to allocate spaces of your day to do certain things. Right? So if I am now thinking, and I may be in a meeting and certain things come to my mind, I'll get a piece of paper, I'll write it out, and then I'll ask myself, okay, which part of the day or which part of tomorrow or the next day am I going to deal with this? And I'll just write it down, and that's it. I've stopped thinking about it because I've taken action. By ignoring it, these thoughts that come to my mind, the more you ignore, they will not be ignored. The more they will remind you. Right? So it's not about ignoring these thoughts, it's about acknowledging them, taking action by making a list, writing it down, and then leaving it there, and then think and coming back to it when you're during your allocated time for it. Saying no or deferring tasks. If it's urgent, someone said yesterday, if it's so urgent, they'll call me. Because it was a context of email. I said, you got so many emails. Don't you read your emails? He says, not really. I said, why? If it's so urgent, they'll call me. If they can send me email, it's not urgent. Okay? I said, you can live with the stress of unread emails. He says, yes, I can. I've learned to switch off. I learned that people's needs are not mine. Just because you have a need that needs to be met, it doesn't have to be my need to meet it. Okay? So I segregate very clearly. Is it my responsibility or is it yours? It's not my responsibility to meet your need. Okay? It's your responsibility to get yourself sorted out. Please don't drag me into it or don't involve me last minute. So that brings me to the third point, saying no or deferring tasks. Okay? So once you are very clear, this thing that needs to be done, am I doing this because I have to, I need to, or because someone needs me to do it? Because they left it out, they dropped the ball somewhere along the line, and suddenly I have to now come up and pick up the slack. So I need to say no or defer it. Right? Shared family calendars or workplace. So this whole idea of making sure that people know whether your calendar is busy. I have a shared calendar with my family members, right? So they also know where I am, what I'm doing, so that they can also do stuff and they want to arrange for family outings or whatever, they can check. the calendar easily enough, my wife and my kids. Sometimes they need to use the car. Sometimes we need to share the car among the few of us. So it's there, written, so who needs to use the car, they just put it in and then they use it. So this whole idea of trying to, rather than keeping things inside here, right? We have a calendar we share, we have a calendar that does a lot of planning for us. And remember, this whole idea of switching, okay? Stop it, okay? Because your brain pays a price each time you do this switching. Okay? It's almost as if you have this light switch on and off, on and off. You sit down there, sooner or later someone will come up to you and smack your hand, okay? Stop it, right? Because this switching task, this whole idea of switching is not making you very productive. Now, the other thing is offloading, right? Everything is urgent. Until you take a step and ask, why is it urgent? Then you realize it's not urgent. It's important, but not urgent, right? So, I want you to take time, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, right? So, if you review your mental map, earlier part of this morning that you drew up, okay? I want you to take a look at all the things, or maybe give you time right now to think of all the things you have to do next week, okay? If you have a laundry list of stuff to be done, segregate it into 3 columns. I must do this. Okay, it's as important as breathing. Or it's as important because if I don't do this, something is going to cause a backlog of work, or it's going to cause something. If I don't pay or don't get these things, conversations sorted out, things will get worse. Second column, I can delegate or share. And then the third column, I can drop or defer. It's not important at all. It doesn't even have to be on my radar. Okay? So if you put these things or draw a column like this and ask yourself, when you begin to shift things around, what do you notice? Okay? Things that need to be delegated or shared. What are stopping you? What's stopping you from doing it? Is it a matter of trust? You don't trust the people that you delegate it to? You don't want to share because when you have to share it, you're worried that people will think less of your ability. Some of us carry excessive loads because we are afraid to ask for help. Okay? Because we think asking for help is a sign of weakness. Asking for help is a wrong way of showing people. Or we believe there's this thing called suck it up and just press on. Sucking up and pressing on never works. Sooner or later, you are going to get hurt. Okay? It's like going to the gym. You are physically fatigued. You're not going to say, I'm going to suck it up. No pain, no gain. That's a crazy idea. The pain comes, then your muscle tear, and then you're immobilized for 6 weeks. You're going to be miserable and wish you didn't push the extra rep. Okay? So think about it that way. If we try to understand our bodies, then let's try to understand our mind as well. And let's let everything work in harmony so there's a little bit more alignment. Okay? So what are 3 or 2 or 1 thing in column 2 that you never ask for help with? Right? What is the cost for you to keep doing these things yourself? Professional, personal. Sometimes you have professional capabilities that sometimes if you're a business development manager, maybe it's hard for you to ask for help. But maybe getting someone to do the legwork, an intern, helping you to try to collate information or trying to do the cold call list so you can be a little bit more effective as you develop the business, as you go and meet clients, a little bit more effective. So there are things strategy, you don't have to carry the load all by yourself. Okay? And if you cannot defer or you're worried, are there trust issues you have? Okay? Or you feel that perception of you may change? So these are questions that you may want to ask yourself. That's the first part. So the second part, managing mental rumination. Now this is a little bit trickier. Why? Because then we overthink, and we must first acknowledge that overthinking is a way of coping. Okay? What are we coping with now? The thing is this, I don't want you to go away after today, stop thinking that, oh, now that the trainer says overthinking is bad, I'm not going to think at all. Notice the phrase overthinking. Don't stop thinking. Okay? But overthinking is unhelpful. If overthinking leads you to better preparation, that's fantastic. If overthinking leads to you being paralyzed, feeling severe anxiety, whereas it's not necessary, then feeling that things are beginning to spiral out of control because over-preparation, then it's not a helpful way. Okay? So think about, maybe you have a teenager in your family who's preparing for an exam. And overthinking, over-preparation, is that a good thing? 1-2 hours before your exam paper, you're sitting there doing 10-year series. Is that helpful? Some people think it is, so they do more. So by the time they work and they sit down in front of a pen and piece of paper, and the invigilator says, all right, turn your paper, the mind go blank. It's almost as if you're going to go run a marathon and you go and run 3 km before that to warm up. And then by the time you want to run your race, you punch it. Okay? So it's very unhelpful. I would rather you realize that if you are prepared and things are and things are within your sphere of control and you're managing, that's fantastic. But overthinking causes you to feel anxiety. Overthinking causes you to lose sleep, causes you to be very testy, very irritable, causes you to be almost paralytic. Then that's very unhelpful. Or overcompensating. Okay? Trying to find extreme ways of distracting. And one of the things is, this is about mental loop, this mental rumination. I'm going to explain to you this model from cognitive behavior therapy. And some of you who have attended our para-counseling basic and advanced courses will already have been exposed to this. Okay? This is basically telling you that situations are not the problem. The problem isn't the problem. Coping is the problem. Why? Something happens or something you're preparing for. Okay? Your brain will then process what needs to be done. But if it's processing in a very unhelpful way, it will lead to your emotions being affected. All right? So if you think about it, where do our emotions come from? All right? Some people say, oh, my emotions, I just feel. You don't just feel. Right? It's been researched and proven. Emotions are not isolated events that happen. Emotions are the result of the thoughts preceding the emotion. It's just that there are so many things going through our mind that we are not even aware. Okay? I also have this belief that I have not tested it out theoretically, that when you wake up and you feel a little bit off, it could possibly be, you may have to ask yourself, what were some things that was going through my mind just before I woke up? Okay? Because our mind is perpetually working. If you understand the concept that mind is never at rest, the mind may be having certain thoughts that may be unhealthy, unhelpful, and then you wake up, you feel a bit So if you wake up and you feel a bit blah, and you realize it's not because of lack of sleep, it's not because there's an injury or a discomfort, you didn't sleep wrongly, then the possibility, instead of being physiological, could be psychological. If it's psychological, it could be something that you were thinking about just before you woke up. Okay? So this idea of the thinking, feeling, behavior loop is something that I would encourage you to observe in the coming week. All right? So if you're not exposed to this and you're not quite sure how it works, in the coming week, every time you are doing something, notice any emotions starting to come up. Okay? Maybe it starts with the sense of irritation. Okay? You may be lining up to buy your favorite chicken rice during lunch, right? And you're distracted. You have your phone and you're on social media, you're scrolling, or you're sending a WhatsApp message. Notice at some point where you begin to ask yourself, why is this queue not moving? Why is this uncle taking so slow? Okay, then you begin to realize, I'm now beginning to feel impatient. Right? So notice how the thoughts affect your sense of impatience. Okay, so if you go back and look at the social media to distract, that's fine. But if you reach the uncle who's selling the chicken rice and you open your mouth and share your irritation, lunchtime crowd so crowded, why you only one person? And the uncle answers you, want to buy lah, don't want to buy, go lah. Then you're going to be the next person on social media where men quarrel with chicken rice seller over long queue. Then after that, you're going to ask yourself, why did I do that? Okay? You did it because of the storyline you created. You maybe had a belief that says, my lunch hour is precious to me. I only have 1 hour. There's so much to be done. Right? Or maybe you have a belief that hawker stores should be more efficient. There should be more than 2 people. How do you know that he didn't have 3 people and 2 of them call in sick? Okay, maybe they were not well. Maybe they had to go back to Malaysia or wherever they come from. We don't know. All you know is that our interpretation of the event causes us to feel a sense of irritation, and if we are not comfortable or we are not aware, it could lead to actions that's unhelpful, like words that come out from our mouth or behaviors. Okay, so this loop, okay, thinking, feeling, acting, can lead to either you becoming more aware and becoming more resilient, or it can lead to you becoming more maladaptive. You can have more negative coping behavior. All right, so maybe thinking that I can't do this, there's so much work, I'm so stressed on work, and then what you do? End up taking medical leave. Okay, you take MC. All right, so sometimes we do need a break, and this medical leave is more a mental break than a physical one. You know what I mean? I got cold. I think I will take MC for 2 days, but actually you're burnt out. Okay, your brain is going into all the very unhealthy places. So one of the things that we want to do is to break those thought patterns. And one of the best ways to break these thought patterns is the grounding exercise I shared with you earlier, the breathing exercise. The minute you feel uncomfortable, you can do this breathing exercise anywhere. You can be doing it standing up. You can be doing lining up in the queue waiting for a chicken rice, or sitting down in the MRT. Whenever you're worried, you do that. Okay? So here's another thing that we can do. Align again with this whole idea of the breathing exercise, but something else. So this is what we call a body scan. Okay? A mindfulness body scan. Mindfulness body scans can be done during morning when you wake up, before you get out of bed. It doesn't have to be a very long, drawn affair. It can be done during lunchtime or the middle of the day. What it's basically trying to do is to notice that when your mind is engaged, overly so, and your emotions, you're beginning to feel anxious, right? That means you have this knot in your stomach. You have a little bit of a tugging in the back of your head. These are all physical signs that you may be overthinking or you may be worried. Okay? You feel a little bit of thumping in the chest, you feel a bit breathless. What we want to do is to shift from all this mental noise to bring you to a state of calm. Okay? So I want you all to think about, in your own life, where is your safe space? Where is that space you can access that you feel comfortable? Many of us may have safe spaces that are physical. Okay? So what does it mean? We can't always access the safe space when we are far away from it. So what we want to do is to create a safe space for ourselves within us. So wherever we go, whatever we do, we know that we can automatically go to that safe space for us to calm things down so that we can re-engage with the world. Right? It doesn't have to take long. It's just a very simple 5 minutes or less. Right? So there are many things that we can do. One of the things we can do is to find little pockets of the day, during the day, where we have micro pauses. Right? So the 4, 5, 6, the breathing work, tea break, water break. Right, just go there. Tea breaks are very interesting. Water breaks, very interesting. If you have a water cooler in the office, you realize that's where everyone goes there. And then water cool, okay? Or the pantry. What becomes unhelpful is when everyone gathers at the pantry and they start grumbling and start complaining, and then become more stressed. So the pantry becomes a place where everyone go there, and they'll change the word from pantry to bitching room. Then everyone go there and bitch, right? That becomes unhelpful, okay? I used to work in a place where whenever I see the pantry got people, I will walk away because I don't want to go inside there. Right? It may be a place where people sit down and eat, but it's a place where people share their misery. And I have enough misery in my own life. I don't need yours, right? So don't share with me. Keep yours to yourself. I'll keep mine to myself, okay? Body scan, all right? And I'll show you how to do a quick body scan later. And schedule walks. So this is something that I also realized that we are doing a bit less of. The weather these days is a killer. But the physical element, right? So if you think about the mind-body connection, mind affects your emotions affect your actions. The mind and the body is also connected. If you are feeling a little bit blah, work in through the course of a day, a short scheduled walk, right? Where you just go out there 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Not only does it have health benefits in the long term, it also gives you a chance to free your mind. It gives you a chance to step out of the room, step out of the whole air-conditioned space, because spaces can program our behavior. After all, we are all products of our environment. So certain areas you go to can program you to behave in a certain way. Office is a place where people feel stressed. Workplace is a place, home. So get out there in the open. Okay? So, reflection exercise for today. What would change if you believed you didn't have to carry everything? Sounds like an interesting question. Let me repeat it in case you're trying to wonder what it means. What would change in your personal life if you let go of the belief that you have to carry everything? If you were to be able to effectively let go one or two things in your life, how would that benefit you? If you didn't have to carry the load of worrying and pleasing people, if you didn't have to be in control all the time, how would that be helpful to you? Okay. You will find in your handout this thing called the body scan. Can you all find the page where the body scan is? I'm going to do a quick body scan. No, I'm not going to scan your body. That sounds wrong. Okay, so if you look at the slide that says examining your thought emotion loop, let me just show you how to do a body scan. Okay. So one of the things that we would want to do is to make sure that we are not carrying anything that we don't have to carry. And that includes not just the thoughts in our mind, but sometimes there are little niggling things that may cause us to feel certain way, right? Tension, for example. It's a known fact that when we are thinking, we are worrying, our body will tense up. Right? Many of you who work in the office space will tell me you suffer from neck ache, stiffness of the neck. Okay? And if I interact with you and I stood away from your peripheral and I see you and I call out to you, some of you may not be able to turn your neck. Some of you have to turn your entire body to face me. Agreed? Okay? So there are things that we carry with ourselves, and just like any person who carries a physiological issue with them and they are not aware, you may be more irritated than you necessarily have to be. Okay? For example, if you are sitting here and you're sitting comfortably, that's fine. But for some of you, you may already begin to feel the start of this discomfort. The lower back may be discomfort. Okay? Your glutes may be uncomfortable. Your ankle may be uncomfortable. Even as I stand here talking to you, I'm also aware that a little bit of discomfort is starting to show up on my right ankle. Okay? So little things like this, what we want to do is to be aware and then to take remedial action rather than to ignore. Signals, if we choose to ignore, one day will no longer be signal. That silent voice in the back of your head to remind you that all is not well. You keep ignoring, and then you begin to lose the power of understanding intuition. Okay? So we do a simple body scan. All you need to do is to sit down in as comfortable position as you possibly can. Okay? Given the constraints of the space and all that, maybe putting your feet flat on the ground would be very helpful. Okay? Second thing that you may want to do is to let your hands be relaxed on your lap. Okay? As relaxed as possible. So if you have a pen or whatever you're holding, just let it go and just put it down. Right? So sit down. Your feet are flat. Your hands maybe on your lap. Right? Maybe just gently placed without any tension. I want you to begin to just focus. I'm not going to hypnotize you, so please don't get worried. I'm not going to ask you for your bank account number and hand over your wallet. Some of you are going to look at me and we do this exercise with a lot of suspicion. Okay, so all I want you to do is to gently relax. Okay, so you can relax simply by starting to engage with your breath first. In that relaxed sitting position, I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and gently release out your mouth. Okay, and take a deeper breath in, and gently relax. Okay, even as you begin to hear the sound of my voice and you're taking these breaths in and out, don't stop. Breathe in and breathe out. I want you to gently bring your consciousness to the present moment. Right? Gently breathe in and breathe out. In between the sounds of my voice, I want you to pay attention to any other sounds that you may hear. Take a deep breath in and breathe out. Without judgment, without any sort of criticism, just notice things that you are hearing. Okay? You may hear the hum of the air conditioning, footsteps. Don't judge, simply notice. You may also begin to notice your thoughts. Don't judge, simply notice. Come back to your breath. Breathe in and gently breathe out. Okay, one more time. Breathe in and gently breathe out. Now we're going to start the body scan. The body scan is going to be very simple. I'm going to start from the top of your head. Okay? And as you continue breathing in and breathing out, I want you to feel the sensations from the tip of your head. Are there any sensations you are feeling? Perhaps the air conditioning blowing down your head, you feel that? Okay? If there's any other sensations apart from that, warmth, cold, notice, observe, no judgment. And as you gently begin from the top of your head, I want you to just move down your forehead. Some of you have your eyes open, some of you have eyes closed. No problem. Okay? Your ears. If you feel any tension, notice it. Don't have to release it, don't have to do anything, just notice it. And as it comes down your neck, some of you may feel a bit of tension on your shoulders, the back of your neck. Notice it. Don't have to deal with it, just notice it. And let the scan travel downwards again from there, down to your arms, your left arm, your right arm. Is there any tension you feel? Simply notice. You may be aching from things that you were doing yesterday. Simply notice. And as you allow the scan to move downwards, from your arms, your forearms, to your fingertips. And if there's any tension, simply release it, let it go. Let your fingers be relaxed. Coming back to your face, and we'll move down to your neck, and we'll move down to your chest area. All the while maintaining your breaths in and out. Do you feel any tension in your chest? Perhaps there's no tension, but a sense of relief and peace that you're feeling. Notice if it's a warm sensation around your chest. Breathe in. And as you move the scan downwards, you're breathing, you may feel your lungs expanding and contracting. You feel your chest, your solar plexus, your stomach. Without judgment, just notice. And as we slowly move it down to your lower body, feel the seat that you're sitting on. Notice any area of discomfort that you may be feeling, any sort of tension. And if your mind begins to wander off, gently bring it back to your breathing. Don't let your distraction take you somewhere else that you don't want to be. Focus back on your breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. And bringing yourself back again to the present. Now the scan will move to your upper legs, your thighs, your knees. Some of you may have a little bit of a knee ache, joint pain. Notice it. Don't have to try to do anything to correct it, just notice it. And as you slowly move it down to your calves, your ankles, the soles of your feet. Feel your feet on the ground. And gently, at the sound of my voice, open your eyes and bring yourself back to the present. Right? So that was a body scan. I'm certain it made a lot of you relax because I saw heads nodding off to one side and nodding off to another side and nodding off. Right? But this is a simple exercise. Now I wanted you to process it. How did you feel? What did you notice? Like I said, no judgment. You may notice a particular ache, a particular soreness. Then after today's session, maybe ask yourself, where is this coming from? Right? Usually, it's a compensation, if it's a physical thing, from some other part of your body. If my knees are hurting, it's not about the knee pain. It could be my glutes tight, or it could be from sitting way too long. My neck ache, my shoulder ache, that's a little bit more straightforward. It could be from tension, that because I'm crouched up, typing like this for hours a day, and then I get anxious, I get worried. Then maybe what I need to do consciously is to let my shoulders sink. And right? So there are things that you can do on a daily basis. Stretching is a very great way. Some people practice yoga, swear by it. Pilates, simple stretching exercises through the course of the day. Simple stretching, okay? Stretching your arms, stretching your leg, walking about. That can also help. Right, to help you to alleviate any sort of stiffness that you may be feeling, any sort of soreness that you may be feeling, okay? And not allow that discomfort, physical discomfort, to affect you psychologically. So, let's talk a little bit more as we come towards the end. Commitment, right? It's great for us that we know that there are many things that are possibly disrupting our lives. Things that may not be exactly the most useful way of moving forward in the long term. Okay? So, as in anything that we do, we need to commit ourselves to taking action. So, I would encourage you to ask yourself, one thing you will ask for help with this week. What is one thing you will ask for help this week? Right? One time that you can give yourself, right, during the course of a day. Which segment that you can etch out for yourself so that you can give yourself a moment of stillness or a moment of silence. One of the things that we try to do, or what we should learn how to do, is not to try to overpower that noise in our head. Is to be still and to acknowledge that noise is there and to listen to what it may be trying to tell us, and then not to be fixated by it, but to come back. If it's a very unhelpful thought to do with your past, it's a very unhelpful thought to do with something to do in the future, and you're not ready to deal with it, or you're feeling uncomfortable having this as a constant theme, bringing your breath back, focus on your breathing, and gently tell yourself, let it go. Okay? And if you find it difficult to let it go, perhaps find someone whom you trust to talk about it. I have found that you don't have to see a counselor, right? You don't have to see anyone. All you need to do is to have someone willing to sit down and talk to you to process it. And you can start a conversation by simply saying, I have had this thought for a long time. And the person will just tell me a little bit more about the thought, and you can share the thought. Okay, I have this thought that this, and all they need to do is to listen to you. But if you don't have someone to talk to and you find it very uncomfortable because it's kind of personal, then the other exercise you could do is to either get a piece of paper and write it out. Okay? So the whole idea is to stop it from running around in here and to get it out here. Either talking or writing it out. And then take a look again at what you've written. So you are now learning how to externalize the problem. Many of us internalize issues to such a point where we are paralyzed. We can't think. You cannot solve an issue using the same thinking that created it. Or it could be a fact that the issue that you are trying to resolve is not from you in the first place. It could be an influence, it could be an event that you had no control over. Now that you externalize it, take a look at it and ask yourself, what can I do about it? What should I do about it? Okay? What can I learn from it? And one of the things that I found that very useful is to convert this thing about a negative experience into a learning experience. All right? So in our reflective practice class, I help our students identify what we call Kensho and Satori moments in life. Kensho usually are very painful moments. So pain can do two things. One, it can hurt you. Second, it can help you to grow. Right? It depends on your perspective of this pain and asking yourself, what have I learned from it? And not many of us have the ability or the capacity to spend time to sit with our thoughts and to be still with them. Right? So let me just recap. As we come to almost to the close, your mental load is a signal, not a sign of failure, not a sign of weakness. Right? Just because you're mentally overloaded doesn't mean that you don't have a capacity to cope. It simply means that you are carrying things that you don't have to. All of us have the innate capacity, or you can even train yourself. You may look at the people around you and ask yourself, how come this guy can cope with so much happening? Well, I guess it's just like me looking at a guy who's twice my size. How come this guy can carry so much weight? Because he's training himself to do it. But whatever he does is, you also notice he's not carrying the weight everywhere he goes. Okay? Even if I give you a little bottle of water that feels effortless, and I ask you to hold on to it and stretch out your hand and walk through the entire day holding it, at some point in time, your hands will give way. So no matter how big or how small the load is, the mere fact that you're carrying it in a very unhelpful manner will cause you to get tired. Now it's time to put that load down. Okay? And if you don't know how to do it on your own, we can help you, all right, to put that load down. So responding with structure. So for some of you who multitask, set a bit more structure, right? I realize that some people mistake multitasking or delay stuff, whatever the reason, they say, oh, I function well under pressure. Okay? I think that's not a very healthy attitude to have. I used to work in the creative business, and 9 out of 10 creative people will tell me, we function well under stressful situation. Yes, you function well under stressful situation, but sooner or later, the stress will break you. Okay? I function well under tight deadlines. Yes, sooner or later, you're going to miss one tight deadline, and then you're going to be in trouble. Right? So it's hit or miss, and I'd rather not have any misses. Right? Stillness. Mental stillness, if you're a person whose imagination and mind gets away pretty frequently, being still is one way to help you, okay? To transfer and transform the relationship with the load. We're not asking you to throw the load away. We're not asking you to be irresponsible. What we're asking you to do is to help manage the load in a helpful manner. And begin to ask yourself, some of these things that we are carrying, do we need to? Is it our responsibility to carry it, or can we share it with the people around you?
Before we go on, I want to thank everybody here because it's quite a successful event. On site, we have about 20 plus, almost 30 packs, and online we have about 70, so it's a good 100 packs here. So maybe as I said, we will go into the Q&A. I'm mindful of time, so I also don't want to hold too late. So we have a segment for Q&A, but maybe before that, I also want to share a little bit. We have been doing this for the past 5 years, where I've been training, and Alastair has been with us since the start of time. 4 years ago, he's been training with us.
Policeman wear shorts. Dinosaur walk on the...
And I think back then we only had one goal. When we were doing this training, of course, revenue is one because we're a social enterprise at the end of the day. But the other part was also the impact that we were trying to create. And I think across these 3 years, one day Alastair came to me. He said, you know what, actually, the people who are coming through our programs, right, are people who are facing adversity, demonstrating resilience, and then finding ways to cope with the struggles on their own platform. And there's been an impact in the things that we've been doing. So one of the things he was sharing that, is there a way for us to give back to our learners? And that's how the Upliven community has set up, where we do ongoing engagement talks. Even for the learners who went through us, we do practice circles where we hone counseling skill set, micro counseling skill set to increase empathic conversations for the learners. So this is something we've been doing for the past 4 years. And I think last year we were just having a chat. We were thinking about our impact seems to be limited now. We seem to have reached whoever who have known us that we can reach. And there'll be a big group of people in the community, even at workplaces, who may be struggling. And we were thinking, how can we further reach out to this group? And that's why today you'll see that the Zoom session have changed. We didn't just do a Zoom, we wanted to record it so that we can then, after that, share it onto the platforms that others can watch and continue the impact. Yeah. So something that maybe before I pass it to the Q&A is that we are now in a stage where we are looking at building a repository of resources, could be in workplace challenges or even in life, family life, that people can access later on. So we're really working with the social service agencies and the charities to craft out programs or micro bite-sized flexible learning that their volunteers can tap on. So right now also, I know that some of you here may have corporate links and all. We are also looking at potential corporate partners who are willing to take the risk and try the solution with us. So if you are ready, you can approach me or Alastair. We'll be happy to have a chat and share more about the vision that we're
If you think what we do is useful and you have personally experienced it and you want to bring it to your workplace so that your colleagues can also experience it, do let us know. Right? If you can't come to us, we can have structured learning, bite-size, depending on the amount of hours you can spare, the team can spare, and we'll go to you. Right? So we've already been doing quite a fair bit of this, but because we started as a social enterprise, we didn't start as a business selling products and skills, so our sales and marketing knowledge and experience not so high. Okay, so but if you have got people that you think can can benefit from what we do, do give us a shout. And then let us know how we can help. We'll approach them.
So we'll change the way we deliver training to make it more flexible and agile. So we don't need to have class size. We can even do this ongoing on a weekly basis to engage with your employees.
Okay.
Yeah, so before I move on, the last thing to call to action will be on the online group. I think my colleague will send a link to you. If you like the talks, do draw a testimonial. For those who are here later on, my colleague might kind of grab you for a short video filming, only if you're comfortable. Okay, no pressure. So maybe before this, let me jump into the Q&A.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so there's a Slido. If you have any questions, you can drop the questions here. Maybe I'll kickstart. And on the audience floor, maybe I ask the audience here, priority for those who really made the effort to come join us today. Do you have any questions that you want to raise based on
Is there one thing that you found hard to understand that you may want to ask from what we talked about? Okay? That's where we start. Or is there one thing that you are struggling on your own in terms of your load that you wish you could let go of? Maybe we can help. Okay, so we're going to open it up here to the audience, and then we'll wait for those online. Okay, we see some typing. All right, please go ahead. Anyone? Yes.
Yes.
Luna.
Thank you very much.
Is the mic on?
Just now you shared about the more you ignore, the more it will come back to you. Yeah, and then you also shared a lot of practical steps where we can actually overcome that.
Okay.
But maybe can you share a little bit more about the essence of this act of ignoring and why it keep on coming back when you already shoved it at the back of your mind and then you do all the practices, but it will still come back. Maybe you can share a little bit.
Okay, so from a counseling perspective, whatever it is that keeps coming back is a sign to show us that it has not been dealt with. Okay, it has not been dealt with, or it's still not dealt with in a way that we are satisfied. For example, You may have a situation where you argue with someone and you realize there was some sort of resolution, right? You kind of apologize and move forward. Then 10 years later, you're still thinking about the argument, right? Perhaps it could be the fact that you wish or you wanted the other person to also apologize, but they didn't. So you may find that your own sense of values or it's something that's still upsetting you. So having a conversation with someone could actually help you to have some sort of understanding or closure, okay? To understand why these thoughts are still coming back. It doesn't necessarily mean you must go back to the person you argued with 10 years ago and say, I need you to apologize so I can have closure. What if the guy is no longer around? Okay? So this thing about our inner self, inner instinct reminding us, it's like this little signal that something is left somehow unresolved. So we are trying to find closure or resolution. And there are many things that we can do from a counseling perspective to actually have this. But it must always start from our acknowledgement, not ignoring it. Acknowledgement that there is something that's on my mind. And I come to someone and says, you know, there's this recurring thought I've been having. I'm not sure what to do with it. Maybe you can help me to make sense of it. And then let the conversation begin. Does it help? Okay.
So your second question, how do I manage expectation from others to multitask? Especially at workplace, right? This is quite real. People expect us to do a lot of things.
Okay.
Especially
Managing
bosses,
expectations from others to multitask. Why do people expect you to multitask? And how do they know you're multitasking or not multitasking? Just because you have a work in... Okay, so let me put it this way. If I show you my work in progress schedule, and if we have a general schedule where all of us are assigned tasks, okay? I may have 10 tasks, you may have 10 tasks, right? So that's equal distribution of work. But how I address my 10 tasks may be different from how you address yours. You may be addressing yours by multitasking. That means within a space of an hour, you're doing 5 different things and your brain is all over the place. Whereas my idea of getting work done is to look at deadlines and to prioritize. One thing at a time, do it well and get it out of my way. Your way of doing it is to do 10 things at the same time and hopefully all clear at the same time. All right? And then you realize that you make mistakes and things have to be redone. So who is actually more effective? So we're not talking about a lot. We're not talking about the workload. Workloads will never go away. We're talking about how we manage the workload. Okay? Multitasking is a choice we make. I can have a very work, but I can now ask myself, right now, I have 5 things due today, and my boss gives me another 3 things due today. Do I need to negotiate? What is urgent? What is important? What can leave to tomorrow? Who can help me? Otherwise, I'll be saying midnight and things will still not be done. I feel guilty that I'm not completing my task in time. I feel bad about asking my colleagues for help because the deadlines are getting tighter and tighter, and I feel bad because I think my boss will think lesser of me if I tell him I can't manage. Right? So it's not about the load, it's about managing the load. It's about distributing the load. It is about reprioritizing the load. Okay?
So unfortunately, communication is also quite important, the skill set that they have.
Recently, I started to have vertigo.
So this is about choosing between 2 important decisions and then feeling occupied by it and it's causing stress to the person. To choose whether to change the job, to take on a contract job for the money, or to protect the resume.
Vertigo could be something else that's not just related to your workload. I had someone I knew suffer from vertigo and 3 years he couldn't leave the room, couldn't get up. So vertigo is, if you look at what vertigo is, it's imbalance. And sometimes the liquid imbalance in your ear is causing you to have the vertigo. Okay? So vertigo can come from many places, right? So what we can mistake as stress and anxiety, I feel stressed, right? Could we mistake it as vertigo? So I would say, please go and have it checked out because I don't want to misdiagnose. It could be a physiological situation or it could be a psychological issue, right? I don't want to misdiagnose. Go have it checked and then start ruling out. Physiological, your doctor to tell you whether there's any sort of imbalance in your ear. Once that is settled, the vertigo should go away. But if it's because of the second part of your conversation, I'm worried about my job, I'm worried about my contract, then I realize it may not be vertigo in and of itself. It could be anxiety. It could be, well, maybe your blood pressure is not so healthy. Other things are coming into it. Okay?
So I said, these 2 questions are combined for you. So this, one of the questions was like, I feel that I need to meet my boss. I'm constantly thinking about how my boss thinks of me. Then the other one is about how do I negotiate my boundaries with my parents. So one is more internal. How do I navigate that? I always feel like I need to, be very mindful of their comments about me. The other one is then how do I negotiate my boundaries with my parents?
Okay.
In terms of,
So I noticed the theme at workplace and parents have one common theme, which is communication. Expectations, everyone has. Whether the expectations reasonable or not reasonable, we don't know. To my boss who's gone through a school of hard knocks, and he's one of those who believe that perseverance will see you through everything. I'm more reflective, more easy, I'm more slower paced, deliberate in my action. Now I feel the pressure. So what's missing is the ability to communicate. I think it's very important for us to communicate expectations. Expectation and boundaries are very close. Some people have certain expectation and they don't realize it, but because of the expectation, they cross the boundary. They personally get too involved in your life. They tell you what to do, right? So it may come from a place of good intention. We're not saying everything is bad intention, but you don't know until you talk about it, right? So talking to your boss about intention or his expectation can help manage the expectation, right? I know there are some bosses who may have, I would say, unreasonable expectation, which may include, if I message you after working hours, I expect you to return my message. Right? I message you over the weekend, I expect you to return my message. Singapore hasn't passed law yet, but in France, in Europe, and in Australia, they already passed law. You cannot do these things after office hours, which I thought was quite sad, because we are now living in a society where we have to tell bosses how to manage. Okay? So if you look at it from the boss's perspective, I can't help but feel sorry for the boss. Instead of spending time weekend with his family members and his wife or whatever, he's thinking about work. And then he's sharing his misery with you, his deadlines with you, right? So you got to ask yourself, do I want to pick it up or not? WhatsApp got very good, got very helpful techniques. You don't show that you read the message, that's one way of it. Or you want to really irritate the person, show you read but don't answer the message. Right? So setting boundaries start with you. You set your boundaries first. No one can cross your boundary if you haven't set any. I mean, people will cross your boundary if you haven't set any. So if I have very clear boundaries, I will not respond after 6 o'clock. I'm sorry. You can send all the messages you want. I will respond when it's working hour. That's it. No more, no less. Okay? Parents, that one a bit harder to set boundary. You tell your mother you want to set a boundary, your mother start crying, you feel guilty, and then your father will kind of talk to you, and then mother talk to you, your father talk to you, and then the whole family will be you against the whole. So I think parents come from a place of good intention. But as the parents get older, they may have certain expectations which may be driven by fear. So you may want to sit down and have a conversation to see what is driving those expectations. Fear of not having grandchildren. Fear of you not moving out the house. Fear of you staying in their house for the next 10 years. Fear this, fear that. And because of such fears, they may have unreasonable expectation. Okay? You may want to choose to have a life where you want to be single, but your parents want grandchildren. Good luck. Buy them a puppy. Buy them a cat, okay? Give them something to carry around, right? Bring around, push in a pram. Don't know. I'm not you. I can't tell you the solution, okay? But the reality is this: unless you have that conversation, you will never be able. You have two groups of people reading each other's mind and becoming miserable, more and more miserable on a daily basis, right? So unless you can read minds, have the conversation.
This is an interesting question. The next one: aging, unable to focus and concentrate, causing stress from the fact that I can't concentrate and focus.
Okay. So my question is, what is distracting you? Use the mindfulness exercise to bring yourself back to grounding and ask yourself what is distracting you. The inability to focus is usually from the fact that we have not practiced focus. Age has nothing to do with it. Okay? Age has nothing to do with it. Yes, age may cause you to forget details, but it doesn't teach you, shorten your attention span, attention focus, unless you really don't have it. So one of the things you want to do is, as you begin to realize these things that you're forgetting, you can't focus, then make a list and ask yourself, maybe there are many different methods, but maybe one of the methods is I focus to do a task 15 minutes, I take a 5-minute break. 15 minutes, I do a 5-minute break. There are many strategies, right? Google online and you can find those. But don't blame yourself for it. Don't feel negative about it, especially when I'm getting older, I'm getting useless. No, old doesn't mean useless. Okay? Like Andy says on there, and Mr. Joshua says, 40 is the new 20. 60 is the new 40. Right? So we never get old. Okay? We never get old unless you choose to be old. Okay?
So I'm going to combine these two questions. One of the questions is, how come I get angry so easily? How do I manage that? And the other one is, I've been stuck in burnout since COVID.
Okay.
So how do I reverse that?
Okay, let's talk about the anger. When you say I'm very angry, one of the things you may want to do is to sit down and write down a list of what are the things that make you angry. Okay? Without understanding the list that makes you angry, you will always be triggered because the anger will show up in many different forms. Write down a list of what makes you angry and then ask yourself, out of all these things that make me angry, which value is being affected? Because anger is a sign that some value or another is being ignored or disrespected. If I value respect and someone talks to me very rude, I get angry. Okay, if I value accountability and someone who does work without being accountable or responsible, I will get angry. So usually values are driven by values. So check in values or beliefs. I believe that people should treat each other with respect. Then if you have this kind of belief system, values, and it goes against it, you will get angry. Burnout since COVID. Now that's a very interesting thing. COVID brought out the best in us, brought out the worst in us. But for this thing to carry on shows that it's no longer burnout. Okay, burnout may be the phrase you're using to describe the fact that you are. Right? It could be the start of depression, or it could be the stages of depression. You may want to go and get it checked out. Right? Speak to someone about it to find out whether it is indeed burnout that has led to depression, okay, or loss of income, or any sort of other difficulty you're facing. Okay? COVID changed a lot of lives, but it made a lot of people more resilient, but it also brought out a lot of fears in many people, and some of them still have not recovered from it. Okay?
So this question is more about workplace. The boss says that I'm in charge, even if I'm delegate, he don't care. You're still in charge. So how do I then regulate that fear that, that I need to micromanage them, but I need to make sure that things are okay? Because nowadays it's about
I think at the end of the day, the buck stops somewhere. Okay? And somehow, somewhere, if you are in an organization where there are many levels, there will be many levels where the buck has to stop. And if you are someone in a position of responsibility and have a group of 10 people, then it's no longer just about your ability to do the work well, but your ability to manage your team as well. Okay? To be able to collaborate and help them grow so that you don't have to micromanage. Micromanagers are usually people who are very fearful, loss of control. And I also realize micromanagers aren't exactly the best mentors or coach. They don't really build teams up. They run teams. Okay, and so you think about the analogy of running a team. What does it look like? What does it feel like for the team members being run by a boss? Right? So when we talk about people who are micromanaging, who are very rigid, it's usually driven from a place of fear. I don't trust my team member, and I fear if they make mistake, I will have to answer. Likewise, you turn it on the other side. If your team does well, wouldn't you be taking the credit? Won't the boss come up to you and say, well done, man, your team has the lowest turnover. Your team has the highest productivity levels. How did you do it? Can you show other team's members how to do it? So many organizations seem to be running themselves to see who reaches rock bottom first. Right? So turnover is high, team morale is low, people are feeling burnout, feeling angry, and then somebody says, I must take responsibility. No. Right? So I think managing expectations is very important. Learning how to coach, learning how to grow your team constructively. Right? If you don't have the answers, then let the team sit down with you to find answers so that everyone can be able to enjoy the process of going to work. Okay?
This one I want to also thank the person for having the courage to share this. So how do I manage the urge to self-harm when I feel overwhelmed? Are there ways to develop healthier coping strategy? So the physical...
Okay, so the first thing I want to do is, like what Abu said, is to acknowledge the strength you have in actually confronting this issue. Self-harm is your way of expressing the frustration you're feeling. Self-harm is your way of externalizing the internal pain you're feeling. Okay? Your pain is real, the self-harm behavior is real, but what needs to be done? So the first thing that needs to be done is perhaps to seek help. Talk to someone you trust. Talk to a counselor. Talk to a trained therapist. Okay? To identify what is it that the internal pain you're feeling so that you're able to articulate it. It may not be everything that you can control. Family members, family situations, your relationships, many things you can't control, but you can control how you choose to confront it. So the first thing you may want to do to confront it is to externalize, to talk to someone, rather than to internalize. Okay? Self-harm is not a flaw. Self-harm is not where you are faulty, something wrong with you. No. It's your way of articulating it. Okay? I'm not encouraging anyone to self-harm, but the scars that you carry one day will be marks of strength that you show to others to inspire them. Okay? So seek help.
Okay, this one will be ability to let go of our experience in the past. Criticize in front of many people about not doing the job well. And since then, it has caused this participant to feel very lousy for himself, not his own competency. He wanted to seek a kind of closure by engaging the person who have made the comment, but I mean, it's a past workplace, so no longer contacted.
Even if the person that you wanted to seek closure with, and you confront him or you bump into him at the shopping center and say, you remember what he said? Let me tell you, very highly likely the guy will look at you and say what? Huh? So the only one person who's remembering the incident is you. The other person who caused you the harm is living rent-free in your head. Okay? So the other thing is there are things that you want to do. One of these is to sit with it and ask yourself, is there any truth in what the person said? Okay? Regardless of the people around and how they responded, is there any truth in what the person said? If there's no truth in whatever the person said, and the people around you, the people around just laughed it, then I think you shouldn't be worried about how barking dogs bark. When one dog barks, the rest will bark also. Okay? The issue is not with you. It's the issue with the dogs that are barking because they can't make sense of whatever is going and they're just going along with it. Do you want such people to affect you for the rest of your life? Second thing is this. If you are able to challenge and say, yes, there's some truth in what the person said, but I don't like the way he said it. Okay? So act on the things that he said so that you can be a better version of yourself. How he said it. So this whole idea of trauma, you may have had a traumatic situation because it was a shock to your system and so many people started laughing at you. One of the exercises that I kind of get clients to do is to sit down. Right? So if you're listening and watching, I want you to do that right now. Okay? I want you to sit down and close your eyes. I want you to bring yourself back to that situation, but at least 3 to 5 minutes before the situation. Okay? So if you are there, your boss is there, and the rest of the people are all there. But you are going to be the only person there as yourself. Okay? I want your boss to be your favorite cartoon character. So I want you to see your boss in your mind as a Smurf. I want to see your boss in your mind as Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Pluto, whichever your favorite cartoon character is, okay? And I want to see the people around you also as clowns just like him, cartoon characters just like him or her, okay? Now I want you to imagine the boss saying whatever your boss said to you, but in a high-pitched squeaking sound. Okay? And I want you to realize that you are the one that's laughing at your boss, speaking to you in this high-pitched sound. Okay, whatever you see in your mind, make it real. Hear the sounds, make it real. And then I want you to hear and look at the people around, looking like your boss, like a cartoon character, and they're all squeaking away. They're not laughing, but they're squeaking. So you have a bunch of people squeaking. Okay, and you are now standing there laughing at them. Okay, I want you to keep playing this image in your mind and make it real, make it loud, make it visual. Imagine you're sitting in the movie screen and it's this big, huge movie screen and you are seeing this unfold. Okay? Run this script over your mind a few times, 4 or 5 times, and then take a pause, and then notice how you feel the next time you think about it. Okay? So it's a very simple technique. What I'm showing you is our mind has no concept of space, energy, or characters. Our mind constructs meaning. All you need to do is construct something new to lessen the intensity of the original construct. Okay, if you see me, I'll do it with you, then you end up, you realize you'll be laughing away after a while. It's no longer the emotional hold on you. Okay, good. I hope it helps.
So the last question. What if I go into mind blank in indecision?
Okay, mind blank and indecision are two different things. One is mind blank. Your mind is shutting down because you're not quite sure and you are worried. So sit down there and ask yourself pros and cons and be a little bit more clinical about making the decision. Okay, indecision is different. Indecision, overthinking it. Okay, so perhaps again, sitting down, before your mind goes blank or when your mind goes blank, write down, okay, what is going through my mind? What are the things I need to do? What are the pros and the cons? And in that simple exercise, that will probably help in the indecision making. Okay, what are the benefits? And what's the worst case scenario if I did this? What's the worst that could happen? And then weigh the two and then, yeah. In the end of the day, Nike has a tagline called just do it for a reason. It's for people with indecision. Okay, to at some point in time to stop the indecision and just do it. Then if it doesn't work, then do something else. That's it. But at least you start. Right? You did something about it. Okay?
One last just came in. You're going to squeeze it in?
Yeah.
So I just found myself in a situation. If my boss asks if I can help him with a task, but actually something that he can handle himself. Should I propose to him that I show him, or should I be a nice employee, just do for him?
Don't be a nice employee and do for him. You're going to feed a negative behavior, right? And you're going to start turning into a habit and you're going to regret the day you did it. Ask questions. How can I help? What exactly do you need me to do? How will that differ from what you're already doing? Okay? When you ask me to help, are you asking me to do it in a different way? Or are you asking me to do it in a way that is more useful? Do you ask questions? Right? Before you agree on a task, always ask questions for clarity. Otherwise, you may get to a place where you're very unhappy for doing things that you don't want to do. And then you're going to blame yourself. So the next time someone asks you to do something, first question you ask is, number one, what do you want me to do exactly? How will that differ from what you are already doing? Okay, when do you need to do by? When is your to-do date? Right? What resources can I have available? Okay, please don't go in and say, how can I help? That's going to be a terribly dangerous question to ask, and then you're going to dump everything onto you. Okay, so seek clarification, ask questions. He's your boss, but again, at the same time, you want to draw very clear boundaries. Bosses ask me to do things, I will not say no, but I want to ask why. Is it because you dropped the ball? Is it because you forgot? You give a timeline. And I need you to be honest, because I can't change the fact that may have to do the work, but I want you to be honest when you ask me to do the work. And in getting you to have this honest communication, you will learn something about yourself. I also will not feel that it's unfair to me. Okay, it's a win-win situation for both of us.
So maybe we'll wrap it up here. I know there are some questions that are coming. You can still drop the questions. What we'll do is we'll try to answer it and then we'll send it in an email to everybody.
Okay.
If that works. So maybe we want to thanks Alastair for your time. I hope this addresses most of your concern. Thank you very much. And maybe the last thing I take away from today, just a point of note, is actually this whole mental load management is beyond just about cutting off and all, right? There's also a lot of other skill sets involved.
Yeah.
How do you converse? How do you communicate your needs? And how do you establish your own boundaries?
Okay.
Yeah. So with this, I hope you can take away something to support or share. Feel free to share the ebook with people around you. We will be uploading the clip from today, maybe in a month's time. So we do some edits and then we will throw it out. When it's out, we will share with you guys as well.
All right. Thank you all so much.